So you know how Trump has been peddling the idea that Biden's in mental decline and he's like not mentally fit to be president. He's just like a doddering old fool who does not have the mental capability to debate him in the marketplace of ideas. So you know how that's been like a big like Trump sticking point. Apparently, it's not been sticking too well with voters. But maybe it is, but not the way that Trump really wants, because because voters think both Biden and Trump aren't mentally fit to be president. The majority of Americans don't think that either Biden or Trump are fit to be president at all. They think that they're both way too old and way too stupid to lead the country. But this is what we're left with at the end of the day. The findings in pivotal states of Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin were released Thursday amid sustained push by the Trump campaign to portray Biden as incapable of handling the demands of office. Most respondents in those states, which will play a huge role in determining the presidential election winner, do not have confidence in Trump's ability to do the job either. A 51% majority said that Trump is mentally unfit to be president, while 49% answered that he is fit. A similar share, 52%, said that Biden isn't fit to be president, and a 48% margin said that he is. Voters had more confidence in the presidential hopeful's physical fitness. 52% said Trump is physically fit to be president, and 54% said Biden is. It took place on 4,143 likely voters, and a margin of error of 1.4%, which is very, very low. Which is, I mean, it's very good for one of these sorts of things. Like how you say you're going to say something less crazy and immediately go to Biden and Trump. Listen, honestly, with everything going on in like the YouTube like freaking content creator sphere with all these crazy right wingers, this is the least crazy thing going on. Two sundowning old people debating who's more sundown and old to be president. This is what we're left with, and this is honestly really interesting. How they all say that neither of them are able to be president. And there was another poll that came out amongst the same sort of swing states, a national poll that said 55% said Trump is unfit to be president, compared to 45% who said he was fit. And in even smaller share, the same exact share said Biden is 52%. 52% said Biden is fit, and 48% said he is unfit. It's the exact same number. So what does this really say? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of reinforces the idea that people weren't very happy with Biden as a person. They weren't very happy with Biden as a person when they were voted into office. When he was voted into office, just mind you, all of these states that voted for Biden to be the presidential candidate are all the same exact states. Are all the exact same states to say that he is mentally unfit to be president. And almost the same exact share, I think that Biden is mentally unfit to be president as well. I have no clue what they would have said if Biden was on if Bernie was on the ticket. I feel like a lot of people think that Bernie is way sharper than Biden and Trump, and I mean he is just sharper than both of them, probably combined. But with that being said, Trump's push to portray Biden as this horribly incompetent, just like stooge idiot who's just walking around in his dementia riddled head with absolutely no control over his own life is just not resonating with voters. Not a lot of Trump's talking points have been resonating with voters. A lot of polls have shown, and it's just sad that this is where our politics has fallen, to where two old slowing dudes on stage pointing at each other, talking about who's gonna fight who is less dementia riddled, and who's gonna pay the military and the government, who's gonna throw more money at the military and the government. This is what we've gotten. This is not even ageist. It's not even ageist. I didn't even say anything about like generally old people. I like Bernie. I mean, he's like too old, but I mean, he's cool. It has nothing to do with them being old. It has everything to do with them being bad people. And this just shows where a lot of people just aren't happy with the system that we're living in under today. They just aren't. which I mean can leave ground for us, people like progressives, people like Dem socks and socialists to leave because there's a vacuum. There is a vacuum for people to enjoy the politicians that they vote in while also not feeling like they're compromising with some wacky loony sort of thing. The Overton window in the country has been moving left, and it's leaving people like Biden and Trump behind. And it's time for us to make a move for it. And thankfully, we have people like Justice Dems or something like that moving in to fill some of those voids. But at the presidential level, sadly, this time around, sadly, Bernie wasn't able to make it. And we're left with people thinking that woefully unhappy with both of the people. And I don't think Biden would have been able to make it if it was anyone other than Trump. The thing that still rings true is that people don't like Biden. They just think that he's going to be the one who's going to beat Trump. And all indications point to him being able to do that, but at what cost? We have to think, like, at what cost? Biden's entire presidency, if he wins, is going to be predicated on the fact that it's going to be him trying to undo the wrongs that he did to this country for the 50 years prior that he's been in office. I mean, like, let's think about it. People talk about how Biden had his hands in all like the most pivotal Democratic legislation. While it's true, he's also had his hands in almost every single piece of bad legislation that's plaguing the country right now. I mean, you wonder why you can't escape. Your student loans. Thank Biden. You wonder why businesses have been able to rake so much money in from politics. Thank Biden. A lot of these things, the crime bill, that too, 3 strikes laws. He wasn't completely against it. This whole time, Biden has been able to push so much bad policy, and it isn't lost on voters. Voters understand it, and that's where we can get it. That's where we can get in. Polls like this shouldn't make progressives think that politics is completely doomed. This should be a green light. This is a spark. This is a chink in the armor of the Democratic and Republican sort of armor, keeping their complete death grip on American politics. This can be a wedge issue where we push through and are able to break through and make a dual power structure or at least make a breakthrough in our highly homogenous political system and do something. People don't like their politicians anymore. We can give them politicians that they like and that they agree with. We just have to convince them that they can win. And I think that's the only obstacle that we have now. I mean, when people were polled, they said that they liked Bernie a lot. They really liked Bernie. They just didn't like that he was old, and they didn't like that he had a heart condition, and they didn't like that he called himself a socialist. But besides that, they were completely on board with a lot of his policies. They were, all right? They just didn't think that he could win, and that was the only thing holding him back. That was it. Well, people think they're both unfit. Who the fuck is going to be president? Bill Weld, he dropped out. Yeah, I mean, the same polls show that they like Biden a lot more than Trump, or at least they don't want Trump to be president. It's really funny how the undoing of Trump is going to be what got him in the office. People don't like Biden, all right? And people didn't like Clinton. People didn't like Biden, and people didn't like Trump when he was getting in. That's really interesting. It's actually really poetic how people didn't like Clinton, so a lot of people voted for Trump, and people don't like Trump, so they're just gonna be voting for Biden. It's really interesting how his undoing, how his the pure hatred people have for him is going to be his undoing. Is going to be what makes him lose office. Bill Weld is a Republican, but he always struck you as a centrist Democrat. You wish he kept running? I don't know. He's nothing that I cared for. The untold story of the 2020 Republican primary is how Republicans completely shut down the ability for Bill Weld and the other guy running to make any splash to voters, because they completely shut down any sort of debate between Trump and anybody else running. There were no debates between Trump and Bill Weld. There were barely any contests being held. A lot of states shut down their primaries, and they were only able to let Trump win, and they were hiding the fact that anybody else was even running against him. It was pretty weird to see it happen. And I don't think anybody talked about it because people don't care. This is just Republicans doing what Republicans do, just shutting down the vote to try and make sure that democracy gets as little room to breathe as possible when they have enough control to be able to do it. So that's an untold story. Maybe we'll go over that sometime. Maybe we'll look back and to see what a lot of like state Republicans did to try to make sure that people like Bill Weld had no possible chance of making any sort of thing to happen. Remember the rap battle cartoon from last night? I remember a bit of it. Wow, what's up with it? Trump and Weld and the third guy. Yeah, I don't even remember the third guy's name. I barely remembered. I only remember Weld's name because you mentioned it. But yeah, it's unfortunate that 55% said that Trump is mentally unfit. 55%, and 52% said that Biden is unfit. They don't like these people, but it's poetic to see how Trump's undoing is going to be what got him in the office in the first place. The not nobody liking him, but people just disliking the other person so much that they're just gonna vote for it. A lot of people say that Biden running as just not Trump isn't going to be what gets him in the office. It's just wrong. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. And polls like this show that it's just wrong. The same polls that say that 52% hate him are the same polls that say he has 52% of the vote when he's put up against Trump.